Never-Ending Chain by Dragon Translator. Chapter 7. What are you? Hiccup felt a weight hit his right shoulder. He heard Sharpshot squawk and shift to his left. Let me guess, he said, a frown playing on his lips. Icewing?
Icewing gave a soft coo and Sharpshot gave a sharp chirp.
Hiccup sighed. Young one, you know you're supposed to ask your parents' permission and mine before hopping onto my shoulder.
Icewing crooned, nuzzling against him.
Hiccup gritted his teeth. He really did love the hatchlings, and honestly saw them as members of his own family. But Frost and Pale had asked him to keep the boundaries they had set. Icewing, Hiccup said firmly. You know the rules.
Icewing chittered. She nuzzled him once more. Then Hiccup felt her weight leave his shoulder. Sharpshot shifted back to his usual spot. Hiccup sighed but continued on, even as he heard Frost and Pale chitter at their daughter. He knew he could not look back. That would only give Icewing more of an incentive to disobey. He caught his father's nod before passing the chief and the village council as he reached the bottom of the stairs. He smiled at his father, happy to know he had done something right. He greeted Pinpoint and Skysinger with scratches to their chins, earning coos from the pair and chittering from Skysinger's parents. The young nadders chirped and tried to hide behind their mother's legs. Hiccup knelt and then sat down, curling his metal leg under his raised right knee. The young nadders chirped, watching him. Skysinger chittered, and it sounded soothing. The young nadders looked up her and then their parents. The purple nadder shifted to nuzzle them. It's all right, the purple nadder said. He hasn't offered harm. His kind isn't offering harm. Hiccup heard some chitters, but not from the young nadders. He looked left, finding Ringfire's bigger hatchlings slithering away from Pepper and Piper. The young Zippleback, along with Blue and Star, had been watching over Ringfire's hatchlings, as Ringfire had to stand with the other elders in the Ring of Dragons, and Vikings surrounding the plaza. Now the yellow Zippleback was chasing after one of her charges, chittering sharply. Ringfire squawked once. The bigger hatchling stopped and laid flat. He crooned something that sounded like a question. Hiccup saw every elder dragon tilt their heads. Ringfire slithered from her place next to Amethyst. She stood by her son, chittering down at him. He responded. Ringfire tilted her head, and then looked at Hiccup. My son thinks you could better calm the spike-thrower younglings if the young of the nest show you then that you are not dangerous. Hiccup smiled. That is a great idea, he said. Ringfire chittered. Her hatchlings began slithering from Blue and Star. Sage chirped, and Sunset and Sunrise glided over to land on Hiccup's left side. They stared up at him. He smiled and nodded his head. Every young dragon in the nest had been told to ask his permission before touching him now that the hatchlings were present. Which was a good thing, since he still had work in the forge with Gobber. At least with a forewarning, he could ensure nothing would harm the young dragons nearby. Sunset and Sunrise rubbed against Hiccup's left side. Sunset looked towards the nadder younglings and chittered. Alpha is good, Alpha, he said, promptly flopping onto his back. Hiccup chuckled and reached over, scratching the fledgling terror's belly scales. Sunset cooed and then shifted so he could see the nadder younglings, even from upside down. See? The nadders did not have a chance to respond. Ringfire's hatchlings reached Hiccup, and at his nod, the three smaller ones crawled onto his lap. Hiccup straightened both legs, so the hatchlings had room, and curled his arms around them so none of the three fell off. The bigger hatchling had slithered to rise on his tail behind Hiccup. Hiccup smiled, feeling the hatchling nuzzle against the back of his head, before a weight rested gently on top of his head. Hiccup heard the pitter-patter of small paws and felt dirt hit his leg. He looked right. Frost and Pale's hatchling sat looking at him.
even Icewing. They chittered. Hiccup smiled. Go on, he said, and soon had 2 ice terror hatchlings in his lap, along with the smaller whispering death hatchlings. Thankfully, both species could fit. The longer whispering deaths just had Wildfire and Snowfire wiggling into the ball they had created. Hiccup was not surprised that Icewing climbed up onto his shoulder and buried into his neck. He looked at the ring of Vikings and dragons, noticing 3 other younglings of the nest that were here for this gathering. Firestorm, Rockmoss, Pepper and Piper, he said. You all want to join in? Rockmoss looked up at his mother. She smiled and nodded her head. He walked away, moving over to Hiccup's left side. He laid down, bracketing sunset and sunrise between him and Hiccup. Firestorm moved away from Tallgear, who stood with the Hoffisons near to Stoic and the village council. He shuffled close and lay down near to Hiccup's right side. He laid his head down in front of Hiccup's feet. Hiccup grinned and nodded his head. Firestorm lifted his head and placed it upon Hiccup's shins. Pepper and Piper waddle-walked closer, but paused. Both heads tilted and regarded him. Hiccup smiled. You're a hatchling of the nest, little one, he whispered. You can join in. Pepper and Piper squeaked. She waddle-walked closer and both heads nuzzled against Hiccup's. The bigger hatchling moved to lay between Firestorm and Hiccup, pressing up against Hiccup's right leg. Sharpshot chittered softly and shifted away from the zibble bag. Sharpshot, Toothless called from the edge of the hill, right above Hiccup's seated position. Having fun? You should be down here too, oh great nest protector, Sharpshot returned. Oh, but I'm enjoying the show from up here just fine. The 6 new natters, even the small ones, jerked and looked up at Toothless. The small ones slipped out from behind their mother and shuffled forward. They stared up at Toothless in silence for several moments, then began to chitter excitedly. The mother looked down at Hiccup. You have a wind shrieker as nest protector? She asked. Toothless is my brother, as is Sharpshot. The older natters blinked. The father looked to Skysinger and chirped. She responded. As they talked in the old tongue, the young natters stared at Hiccup. One, the colour of the sky in the evenings, eased forward and cautiously sniffed Hiccup's boot. It chittered, causing its siblings to shuffle closer and sniff as well. They squawked excitedly and began nuzzling against Hiccup's boot. Icewing chirped sharply. They froze. Hiccup frowned as they shuffled back. Icewing, we do not scare newcomers, he said. Icewing chittered. She was telling them to ask permission before touching you, Sharpshot said softly. Ah, Hiccup said. Thank you for that, Icewing. But next time, how about we tell them a bit softer, okay? They are scared. We don't want to scare them more. He looked back to the natters. It's okay. You can nuzzle against me. I don't mind. The young natters chittered and shuffled closer. Firestorm lifted his head, and the bigger of Ringfire's hatchlings rose to sit on his tail behind Hiccup. Both chittered invitingly to the natters. The natters looked up at both of them, and then to Toothless. Hiccup heard his brother warble something that sounded soft. The natters squeaked and moved alongside Hiccup's right side. Each picked a spot and curled up next to him, purring softly. Firestorm lowered his neck again, placing his chin upon Hiccup's shin. The bigger of Ringfire's hatchlings placed his chin back on the top of Hiccup's head. Sharpshot hopped down, moving to sit beside Sunrise at Hiccup's left side. The adult natters' conversation stopped. Both parents stared down at their younglings, while Skysinger and Pinpoints smiled. Our youngest, the father began, the light yellow one, got lost in a cave system near to our den. A female windshrieker found our little girl and brought her back to us. The natter looked to the crowd watching. I see both of my oldest girls here, and neither look terrified. None of your kind are holding weapons to any of the dragons here.
He looked down at Hiccup.
My daughter calls you her alpha, yet you are a willing roost for those hatchlings, and actively encouraged those younglings to gather closer to you. You did this in order to calm my younglings. Forgive me the inquiry, Alpha of the Nest, but who are you? What are you? You stand and talk like a human, but you are acting like a dragon right now.
I'm just Hiccup, sir. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I like that one so much. He's just a magnet for kids and I love it. I really do. It's just a massive group hug to make the other newcomers feel safe. It's so lovely. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.